Good morning. Welcome to another Thursday Thoughts. Glad you could join us. Hope you're all well. Hope you're all safe. Hope you've got a drink of some sort by you at the moment, and you just sit back for a few minutes and listen. When I was young, there was a TV program called Jack and Ori. It was about somebody telling a story every day, every week, and the person telling the story would always say, "Are you sitting comfortably? Well, I'll begin." Well, okay. Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. On November the 5th, 1993, it's a day that's etched in my memory because apart from a brief excursion to McDonald's, which my wife never lets me forget about, we spent most of the day in the hospital. She never lets me forget about it because at the time she was busy giving birth to our son, Ben, our first child. It was a long day. He was eventually born at around 10:30 at night, and as he was born on bonfire night, should have been called Guy really, but we called him Ben, you could hear bangs and whistles going off in the background of the firework displays that were happening at the time. And then we had 18 years after that of firework parties every November the 5th. Well, we all like fireworks, don't we? We all like something that goes off with a bang. Well, I got a few here actually. These are left over from a previous year. That's a Pioneer. That's an Atlantis. And that is called a Magnitude. It's quite heavy actually. I think the reason they're left over is they didn't exactly go off with a bang. They went off with a bit of a whimper. But what's the common factor in those three fireworks, all the fireworks we have really? Well, okay, you could say there's gunpowder in them all, but more than that, or as much as that, they all need one of these to light them. Imagine, you spent months preparing a big firework display for your back garden, your garden party. You got your bonfire, you got your food, you got everything sorted out, you got all your fireworks, you got loads of people have come, but nobody's thought to bring a match. Bit of a disappointment, isn't it? Sometimes in life it's the insignificant thing, the thing that we forget, the thing that we might just overlook, that's vital, that's important, and in many cases it's the person we would almost overlook that God chooses to use. In the 1820s, the minister of a little church in a place called Blantyre in Scotland, which is near Loch Lomond, I believe on the banks of Loch Lomond, was sacked by his church, by the elders of his church, because in the 12 years that he'd been there, there'd only been one conversion, and that was a little boy in the Sunday school called David. Just happens that little boy's surname was Livingstone. He was David Livingstone, the great missionary and explorer of the 19th century Victorian era, one of the most famous missionaries and explorers of all time, was used by God to take the Christian faith into that part of Africa. There's a little character that we read about in the Bible called Ananias. There's two Ananiases in the Bible. You got to make sure we get the right one. This one is in Acts chapter 9. There's another one earlier in Acts, but this one's in Acts chapter 9. And Ananias gets the job that nobody else wants to do. Ananias is told by God to a place called Straight Street in Damascus, where he'll find a man called Saul. Now, only 2 days before, Saul was breathing out threats against all the Christians. And he was threatening to put them in prison and even kill them. And Ananias understandably didn't particularly want to go, but he was obedient and he went and he prayed with Saul. And Saul became the person that we call the Apostle Paul, who not only wrote a big chunk of our New Testament, but was used by God to bring the Christian faith into Gentile Europe. He took it beyond the bounds of the Jewish faith and into formerly pagan Gentile Europe. Probably the reason we have churches all the way across Europe now is because the Apostle Paul existed and because he had such a fruitful ministry. There are many more people throughout the Christian faith who've been very greatly used by God to promote the Christian faith. But they became Christians. They devoted their lives to serving God because someone that we've never heard of told them about Jesus and about what Jesus had done for them. Even Jesus himself was born in humble circumstances. He was born in a tiny village called Bethlehem. He spent his life and lived out his life and his ministry in an obscure part of the Middle East. He died an ignominious criminal's death on the outskirts of Jerusalem. But it was the fact that the Bible says that 3 days after he died, he rose again. And this small band of followers that he had, dozen or so, that have been called unschooled ruffians and fishermen. They weren't educated, they weren't grand, they weren't great people. They went on to turn the world the right way up for God. They changed the world because they went out with this message of hope, this message of salvation, this message of forgiveness, and above all else, this message of resurrection, that this Jesus had risen from the dead and had conquered death. His life-changing message of healing and forgiveness and power has changed millions over the last 2,000 years. He's interested even in the smallest, humblest person. And he can change that person and make them something special in his hands. Now, I'm not sure if we really allowed firework parties during lockdown, but if you are letting fireworks off tonight, be safe, follow the firework code. They still have a firework code? Well, we used to. Follow the firework code. Don't forget your matches. But also, don't forget that Jesus is interested in you. He's interested in the humblest, most insignificant person. And he's interested in the mess that you've made of your life. And he can forgive, he can cleanse, he can change. And he can make you something very special and usable by him. Well, take care, stay safe, keep safe through the rest of lockdown. Look forward to seeing you very soon. Every blessing. Bye now.